I know a lot of you feel like men are confusing as hell, all right? And I get it. I completely understand. And I think a lot of that happens because there are differences between men and women that I think we're not fully accepting and embracing. And with that confusion, that can create a lot of chaos, frustration, and it can lead some of you to feel like it ain't worth it. I'm not dealing with these fools any longer. But just slow down, okay? I want you to give it another thought or, you know, consider a few things. And I'm going to help bring some clarity to some of the, we'll call them signals that men might send you that a lot of women misinterpret, okay? And of course, I'll tell you how to better navigate this situation. Now, listen, I know some of you will just say, well, just tell these men to stop being so confusing. It ain't that simple. And I got to make sure that I equip you with the tools you need to get the best results for yourself. And you can't control them, but you can control you and you can control how you interpret things and how you navigate certain scenarios. So, with that said, one of the first ones I really wanted to talk about is the signal of staring at you but not saying anything, or looking at you and not saying anything. Now, this can go as something that gets misinterpreted, but I think even more so, what I feel is it gets mishandled. Okay. So now, first, let's start with a couple misinterpretations there with this. I do think that, listen, sometimes people can look at somebody and maybe fall into a stare, but they're not actually like, have you ever looked at something and your mind went elsewhere, but your eyes stayed where it was, but your mind went elsewhere? So that person might think you're staring at them for a reason, but it's like, no, that's not really what's going on. So I had to mention that because it does happen. But outside of it just being a misunderstanding mistake, this scenario, a lot of women complain about men looking at them, not saying anything. And I think what women should start to do is, if you are interested in the man who is looking at you, give him a signal that says he can come talk to you. Now, some of you may have sucked your teeth or rolled your eyes, but hear me out. In today's world, men have become overly cautious when it comes to approaching women, okay? I think even before many years ago, there was many occasions where a man would look and not say anything because he might be scared, he might be nervous, he might not be sure that she's open to talk to him, various reasons, or he may not be in a position that he can. Let's say he is in a relationship, and so he's looking because he's admiring you, but he actually can't take any action on it. But because men have become so cautious and become so scared, they need a green flag. They need something that says, okay, I can come talk to you. And I know you might say, well, I'm looking at them back, so why is it a problem? The problem is, I don't think you women are aware of the countless amount of situations where man looks at woman, she looks back, he approaches her and still gets rejected, okay? And forget he gets rejected because maybe once he opened his mouth, he said something stupid. No, she, from the jump, she's like, oh no, I wasn't interested, or no, I wasn't looking at you like that, whatever the case may be. So it's not like the woman looking back is this guarantee that she's interested. And you might just be looking back because you're wondering why he's looking at you. Like, it may have nothing to do with you finding him attractive or being interested in him. So the look back isn't strong enough. But I think a smile can go a long way. So if you don't want to wave, smile. But I think the wave is very strong and effective. And it makes it clear. It was wave with a smile, of course, because if you wave with a scowl, that says something different. But wave, smile. And then from there, it's like, okay, if he can't take that and approach you and make something happen, all right, that's on him. That's just his loss. Now, here's another thing I want to shed some light on in regards to the man looking at you but not saying anything. If this happens at an event, okay, where there are other women in the room. Something that women have to remember and consider is this. When a man walks into a room filled with women, let's say he finds 10 women in there attractive to him, right? That he would be interested in. And remember, he doesn't know anything else other than what he finds attractive in that moment. He doesn't know who's single, who has a crazy baby father, who just don't want to be bothered with men right now. He doesn't know any of that. All he knows is he sees 10 women that he finds attractive. Now, if he just says, all right, well, I'm just going to go talk to each one that I find attractive, once he talks to the first one, the other women may notice, and now when he comes talk to them, they might be like, oh no, now I'm not interested because you went to go talk to that other lady first. I'm good. I'm not second to anyone. Like, he pretty much shoots himself in the foot. So he can't really just work the room in many scenarios. He has to now pay attention to not only who he finds attractive, but who is giving him the energy or the signal for him to come talk to them. And that's why in an environment like that, it becomes even more important that you do something like the wave and smile to show him, yes, he can come talk to you. All right, so now we're going to go in a completely different direction with this. Another signal by men that women misinterpret is that his jealousy doesn't mean he has actual real feelings, all right? And not just jealousy, but being territorial. So I bring this up because I have seen many situations where women think, all right, let's say they're dating a guy, and let's say he's not trying to take things to the next level with them, right? He's not taking them serious. And so and maybe they just feel like, but maybe this guy doesn't really have feelings for me, whatever the case may be. So someone may have told them, well, let him see you with another man, right? Let him get jealous. So they'll do that. They'll make sure that they go on a date with another guy, or somehow they get it back to him. Maybe they post it on their story, whatever the case may be. And the man reacts to it, and he is jealous, and now he's trying to hit her up, right? And there are women who then think, oh, okay, he does care. He does have feelings. Wrong. Even men who have no intention of ever being seriously committed to you may get jealous when they see you with other men. And even more so, some will take it to the extreme of being territorial, where they might even say to you, like, they might even sabotage any attempts by you to see other men, even though they're never going to be serious or committed to you. And so it's important as a woman that you don't think jealousy or territorialism is, genuine feelings. Genuine feelings is him showing you respect. Genuine feelings is him being willing to commit and be with you and pour into you in the way that you need, okay? Genuine feelings is hearing your concerns and wanting to do something about it, and not you having to play these games of, I'm gonna make him jealous and do that to just get a reaction out of him. Like, to me, if you gotta go to those lengths, that's telling you everything right there. So you gotta be very careful with those types of individuals and understand it just doesn't equate. It's just that there's a lot of guys. Like, I know a guy when I was growing up, he was a big time player, right? So he's always had a bunch of different women. But he would do everything in his power to make sure those women saw no one else, okay? And he would get mad at them. He would use all kinds of manipulation tactics, right? Now, just so we're clear, this wasn't like my boy. This is someone I knew of before any of y'all be like, why y'all hanging around with a guy like that? But it was crazy, the stories I was hearing. And that's how some guys roll. So just be careful with that and focus on genuine acts of love and intention and seriousness of being with you. All right, so this next one is a big one that I see gets a lot of women in trouble, that they're misinterpreting with these men. And this one is, just because he treats you like a girlfriend doesn't mean he wants a girlfriend. Now, I know that sounds ridiculous when I say it, right? But let me break it down for you. And I mentioned this. I have a whole chapter about it in my book, He's Lying Sis. So check it out. But here's what let's start with the foundational piece of the difference between a relationship and just kicking it with you, entertaining you, whatever the case may be, is commitment and obligation. Okay? Commitment and obligation. So, a man not wanting a relationship typically leads towards him not wanting to have to be committed or obligated to anyone. Okay? However, the activities that happen in most people's relationships, intimacy, hanging out, talking regularly, all these things, he can still want that. He can still enjoy that with you, but he doesn't want commitment and obligation. So you'll have these situations where, yes, he's taking you out, he's talking to you on the phone, he might even be paying some bills, giving you money. Like, I've seen all kinds of levels to this, right? And he's down to do all of that. However, when you bring up relationship, he's like, no, I don't want that. Or what typically happens is there becomes an assumption of relationship. The woman thinks, oh, he's doing all this for me, he's treating me so well, that must mean I'm his girl. And then let's say months later, when she finally brings it up, or when she calls him out on something that she feels like, let's say he took somebody else out to dinner, and she gets upset, and he's like, yo, we're not in a relationship. Like, I never told you we was officially with each other. I'm free to do it as I please. And the woman, of course, is devastated, confused, doesn't understand. And that's why you cannot run with that assumption. I know, especially for as we get older, I think people become more resistant to titles, or they're just like, do we really even need to do the whole title, you're my girlfriend, you're my boyfriend? But there has to be an acknowledgement of commitment, right? And being official. You cannot assume it, because that will set you up for a lot of disappointment. All right. And so again, I don't think there's much else to say here. It's just that, yes, it is possible for a man and even a woman to want relationship benefits, but not want the responsibility that comes with one. Okay? And it's as simple as that. So don't confuse the two. Get verbal confirmation. Like, they got to say it. Yes, we are in an official relationship. Yes, we are committed to each other. Yes, I'm not seeing anyone else. All right, cool. We're good. And now we can move forward. All right, so got a few more to go. And this next one is probably going to make a lot of y'all shake your heads, but let's keep it going. Another signal for men that women misinterpret is that a lack of pursuit does not always equal a lack of interest. Now, again, I know that sounds ridiculous, right? But let's break it down. Let's break it down. And understand that when I decide to put certain things on these lists, it's because I've seen this over and over and over again. I'm not pulling out random situations. I'm not just making stuff up. I see this happen. So we kind of touched on it in regards to, like, someone looking at you but not actually stepping to you and making an attempt to get to know you. But let's talk about whether it be someone you're already talking to, someone that you know, maybe someone that you're cool with, whatever the case may be. And the assumption is, okay, well, if he's not trying to make anything happen, he must not be interested. And the reason why I had to highlight this is because you got to make sure, this is specifically to someone that, let's say, you've already exchanged numbers with, you guys already started talking, dating, whatever, right? And things start to fall off. And so you think, well, him falling off, this means he's not really interested, he's not really serious. You got to start with asking yourself, were you doing your part? I'll give you a quick story. There was a woman, Man was trying to get with her. She decided, all right, this guy attractive. All right, he seems cool. She starts talking to him. Now, her situation, it went on for, let's say, 5 months. 5 months, he's calling, he's pursuing, he's taking her out. He's doing all the things you're supposed to do. But then eventually, but they still were not, after 5 months, they weren't even official. I think she was like, I want to make sure we take our time and we don't rush anything. But she actually genuinely liked this guy. Okay. So, anyways, eventually it starts to fall off. And then she comes to me and she's like, I just want you to help me understand the situation. And it seems like he's not interested anymore. I don't know if I did something. And I'm like, okay, let's dig into the situation. And what we find out is, for those 5 months, I said, because he hadn't called her for, let's say, 5 days. And I said, well, in those 5 days that he didn't call you, did you reach out to him? She's like, no. I'm like, let me ask you something. In those first 5 months, who was the main one reaching out and calling? She said he was. I said, and really, I believe she said he always was the one, like every day, good morning, sending her memes, all this stuff. So I'm like, you over here questioning if he lost interest, if he's not serious, all these things, and you were not reciprocating any effort. You weren't doing your part to make him feel like his efforts were appreciated, welcomed, enjoyed, and would lead to something. So yeah. And so I guess the reason why I had to bring this up is because when you look at lack of pursuit, a lot of things need context, okay? And for me, I have the honor of being able to sit with people or talk with people over the phone or through the internet and get the full story. The average person only hears the highlights of what's going on in other people's lives, but I'm getting to hear all the details. And when you start hearing all the details, you're like, well, wait a minute. You can't just say this man was not pursuing you when you weren't doing your part in the situation, okay? So you got to realize that sometimes a lack of pursuit is a lack of uncertainty of your interests. And that's why you have to make sure that has been made clear. If you've done your part, now we can look at his lack of pursuit as that. Plain and simple, cool. But you got to make sure you did what you're supposed to do. So it's just something to be mindful of. It's something to consider, right? I also will say that in situations where, let's say, another quick story, and I'll make this one fast. Man and woman, they were friends. She liked the guy. And in this situation, she expressed her interest. So she's free and clear. She did nothing wrong. She expressed his interest. He didn't seem to fully embrace it. He just kept rolling with her as being friends. But this man was like, anything she needed, he was there for her. He was doing everything, right? I got the vibe that this man had interest. Long story short, she gets with someone else. He finally reveals his interest. In that scenario, that's on him. That's his loss. We cannot hold that woman accountable for his lack of willingness to get over his fears, concerns, or whatever when she expressed it to him. But it does show you how there's a lot of men out there who are just scared. There's a lot of men out there who are just uncertain, right? So sometimes it's just that. It's just that. So it's just one of those things I had to shine some light on. But the main point I want you to understand is make sure you always do your part. All right, so this next one is going to resonate with some of you, maybe a lot of you, maybe all of you. But this next signal that a lot of women misinterpret, from what I've seen, is that a man being spiritually vocal does not mean he is spiritually grounded, okay? So one example I'm going to use, I had a client once many years ago, and she married a pastor, okay? Actually, no, I'm sorry. That's a different story. This one, she was just dating the pastor, okay? She was dating the pastor. And this is not in any way throwing shade at pastors. Please understand, It's about the individual. It's not about the whole group. All right. Plain and simple. But in this scenario, clearly this is a man who knew scripture, spoke very loudly about his faith, all these things. But behind closed doors, right, he was a menace. He was abusive towards her. He was manipulative. He was narcissistic. You name it, she dealt with all of it. And I bring this up because, again, if you are a believer, if you are a spiritual person, you've got to understand that your eyes and your ears can and will deceive you. Then we can add your heart, meaning, and when I say heart, I mean your emotions. Your emotions can get the best of you. So, example, you come across this man. He's very vocal. He's doing all these things on the surface that seems like, oh, this is a man of God. Okay? And because you're at a place in your life where you want a partner, let's say he's attractive, like your emotions are telling you, I want this to be real. I want this to happen. And because your eyes are seeing something good and your ears are hearing something good, you're thinking, jackpot, I'm good. The problem is you ain't talked to what your spirit knows. Yeah, you ain't talked to your spirit. And that's the missing piece to all of this. Like, we have to understand, and listen, even when it comes to me, I tell people all the time, anyone who's read my books, I tell them, like, don't just take what I say and say, okay, well, Stefan said it, so it must be true, it must be real, it must be good. No. Pray about it. Ask God. Let God tell you if I'm good. Let God tell you if the message I'm giving is legit. Let God co-sign it. If he don't give the co-sign, then dismiss what I gotta say. If God tells you I'm something bad or whatever, don't follow me. Like, I just want you to do whatever God tells you to do. So I need you to apply that with these men, okay? And you gotta be careful. And it's hitting my spirit, so I'm gonna say it. With not just men, but just people that you follow, honor, and believe in, okay? Now, don't get me wrong. Everyone got some issues. Everyone falls short. So it's not about, are they perfect? But at the core of who they are their intentions good? Is their spirit good? That's what we're looking for. Because sometimes it can be the flip side. So you see how we say the spiritually vocal guy may not be spiritually grounded, as in he may not have true character that speaks to that. But then you can meet another guy who isn't so on the surface with his beliefs and his practices and things of that nature, but he's more spiritually locked in than the other guy. He's more genuine than the other guy. He has real intentions, good intentions for you than the other guy. So you got to go deeper than the surface, and you've got to connect with the spirit. You got to talk to God about any and every individual. That's the safest, best, most effective approach to take. All right, just a couple more to go. And this next one, let's just get to it. This next signal that a lot of women may misinterpret is that flashing luxury does not equate to financial stability. Now, I know many of you will be like, oh, we know that. and bravo if you do. And I do think that this tends to be a trap that a woman in her younger years may fall into more so than a woman in her elder years, so to speak, or who has experienced enough life, right? But let's go deeper than just flashing luxury. We're going to start there, but we're going to go deeper. So with just the flashing luxury, I just want to highlight the fact, because I don't know how old each and every one of you watching this are. So I want to highlight the fact that you got to understand there are men out there who will literally spend, I'll make it this simple. I remember one time eating at a restaurant, and me and the waitress were talking, and she tells me how there was a dude who rented a Rolls Royce, right, for the month. This man don't have his own place. I don't even think he owned his own car, but he rented it for the month. He basically set up the facade for an entire month to just, be flashy and go to different places to pick up women, all that kind of stuff, but ain't have none of that. And the way that the game can go is that reel the women in with the flash. The women's getting caught up in the moment. They're not thinking deeper than that. In some scenarios, they get emotionally invested with the man, emotionally, and become attached to him. And now, let's say after the month, whatever, the smoke clears and you realize he's just broke. Or he doesn't come close to what he was presenting, but now she struggles to walk away because she's given time, energy. She thought there was more to it than this. Like, it just makes things messy. So you just want to make sure that, like, I'm one of those guys, I'm going to be real with y'all. I don't think there's anything wrong with a woman who likes nice things, who may be drawn to men who can provide those things. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Just as there's nothing wrong with a woman who likes the simple things in life. To me, everyone has their different paths they want to take or should take. But you have to be careful with making sure you do your due diligence to understand what kind of man you're actually dealing with. And is he stable? All right? Is this because, anyways, let's move on to the other deeper part of this point. So go beyond flashiness. I think that I've said this before and I'll say it again. You hear a lot of people on the internet speak about how much a man makes, right? And idealistically, tons of women might say 6 figures. We're just going to go with that for this discussion. And of course, everyone may not be looking for that, but that's what you hear a lot on the internet. And my problem isn't a woman wanting a man who makes 6 figures. My problem is not looking at the full context of what are you really aiming for? You're aiming for a man who can provide financially, who is stable, who can also provide maybe a certain type of lifestyle. Just because he makes 100, 125, 150, that doesn't mean he actually has the means. One, doesn't mean he's generous. Let's just start there. He could be stingy and be making that kind of money. 2, he could be in loads of debt. He could be living paycheck to paycheck. I think there was a statistic that said 37% of people making $250,000 and up were living check to check, okay? Now, I know some might say, yeah, because the economy or the prices of rent and all these different things. Yeah, but some of it is some people are poor money managers, have gotten themselves into a lot of deep debt, and yeah, they're still fighting to get out of it. Either way, you could have that scenario, but then you can meet a guy who makes, let's say, $75,000. And remember, context. Let's say he's been making $70,000, $75,000 for the last 7 to 10 years of his life. And in that time frame, he owns his house, he has investments, he has everything set up, and he's a generous giver. Who do you think you're gonna have a better life with? Mr. 75K or Mr. over 100K? So it's like, don't get confused and misinterpret the number of how much someone makes with how much they can actually give, what they can handle, how they manage things, and what kind of life they can actually provide. You gotta take a deeper look. And I was gonna move on to the next point, but I'm gonna use one more financial issue that I wanna bring up. Because then another thing you hear a lot of people say is credit score, right? You gotta have a good credit score. Now, I'll be real, even though I hear people mention it online, I don't hear many people saying when they were dating, they actually asked what the credit score was. But either way, credit score is another one of those things where even that can be tricky. You have to look at context. So it's not just about the score. You're going to need the whole report, okay? Because if, for example, you could have one person who has a low score because when they were a child, their parents put stuff in their name, or medical bills that they never paid off that's in collections, that's bringing their score down. But other than that, all their other credit accounts are clean, they've been paying on time, everything is good. So that tells you this is not really a person that is problematic in the area of credit and money management. This is someone that has some history attached to them that they haven't gotten rid of yet. On the other hand, you could also have someone with a super high score. And I remember one time a woman had a 700 score, and it was because she only had one thing on her credit report. I really don't know how she got that high with only one thing, but either way, it's like, and the one thing wasn't anything that significant. So it's like, it doesn't really show how good she is with money. So again, you gotta take a bigger picture approach to these different financial things when you are trying to figure out who and who you shouldn't be entertaining romantically. All right, and this next one, I had to put it on this list because I've recently had a situation where, let's just get to it. All right, sorry. So this next one is the signal that a lot of women may misinterpret is that friendliness from a man doesn't always equate to romantic interest. Okay, so I think a lot of women knows how that, they know the feeling of that when it happens to them, which it happens to a lot of women, where to the point where some women feel like they can't even be nice and friendly with men because it's always being misinterpreted as interest, right? And I think the reality is that I always say when someone likes you, they're gonna look for any reason to make themselves believe that they got a shot with you. Okay? And so when you are a desirable woman, you're gonna have that happen with a lot of guys when they're your friends, acquaintances, co-workers, whatever, right? But it also happens to a lot of men, desirable men, right? Where if they have formed female friendships and things of that nature, sometimes their friendliness is interpreted in that way. Now, I'm only bringing this up to say again, this is why communication is so important, and it's the theme, underlying theme to all of these things. Because at the end of the day, you just never know what it is. Sometimes the friendliness is because he's interested. Sometimes he's not, and the only way to figure it out is talk about it. People spend way too much time analyzing, guessing, maybe spending all day on YouTube trying to ask the question, is he interested in me? And they're looking for all the signs, and it's like, okay, that's cool. I love you watching the YouTube videos, right? But just talk to the man. Just nip it in the butt. And the sooner you do, the better, because as I said, or I was alluding to, there was a situation where a woman and a man became very friendly, and in that friendliness, she developed feelings, right? And she believed that, well, maybe he must have feelings too, or must be developing feelings too, even though he's never expressed it. He never made any sexual advance on her, anything like that. The problem is, by the time that she finally decided to make a move, because she figured, all right, well, maybe this is something here. I got to do something. When I say make a move, she made a physical move, right? He resisted. He wasn't feeling it. And that left her devastated and in a very difficult position. And the thing is, had this gotten discussed earlier, we could have figured that out and nipped in the bud before it got that deep. So the key here is this. If you are interested in that man and he is being friendly to you, and your feelings are developing and getting stronger, you gotta nip it in the bud as quickly as possible. Do not let things drag out. Don't go, because let's go back to the earlier point. A lack of pursuit doesn't always mean a lack of interest. Because what happens in some scenarios is, well, your friends, or you might tell yourself, well, he hasn't said anything, so he must not be interested. But the problem is your feelings continue to develop. And it will get to a point where they're so strong where now it's going to rise up to the top and things are going to just blow up, right? Sometimes people get lucky and it blows up to something good, and other times not so much, right? So we don't want to wait till that point. We don't want to take guesses and assume. Just talk to the man, right? And that way it's like, oh, okay, no, there's no interest. Cool. And as I gave to the other story with the woman who expressed interest, the man didn't, only to later come clean and admit to it. Well, she didn't do it. She did her part. And that's what I'm trying to get you to do here. Do your part, talk about it, communicate. Don't let the things linger and weigh on you, because that will only hinder you in your ability to move forward and be available to receive what is actually truly best for you. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on the 7 fastest ways to expose a man's intentions. However, there's a tricky thing about this whole dating intentionally, because guess what? They could intentionally be dating you just for sex. They could be